been enjoying playing this beautiful Les Paul quite a lot recently, and what I thought would be quite interesting to do is to look at some Les Paul type songs, and this may or may not become a little series, and if you've got any interesting suggestions of Les Paul kind of songs that would fit with the kind of thing that I do on my channel, then do let me know. But my first thought was to look at a bit of Mick Ronson, and Mick Ronson has long been one of my favourite players, and I've not looked at any Mick Ronson before on my channel. I think I've looked at one Bowie song before, but that was from the post-Ronson era. Now, Mick Ronson, obviously an amazing guitar player, famous for his work on all of that Bowie stuff, but also was a session man, played on a lot of other interesting records, done some interesting solo stuff, and he was a great all-round musician. He was actually responsible for the string arrangements on a lot of that classic early-ish Bowie stuff as well. So the tune I've chosen to look at is Moonage, Daydream, which is a Bowie classic. It's a Ronson classic, and I'm going to start with a little disclaimer that I can't play it exactly like Ronson plays it. He's one of those players with a really unique tone and a unique touch, so I'm just going to do my best to get as close as I can, and I hope this lesson will have some interesting insights into the Ronson style. So I'm basing this lesson on a couple of different recordings of the song. There's the original recording, which is found on the Ziggy Stardust album, and in fact I came across a couple of different mixes of that recording. There's the original mix, and then there's a mix that was done a bit later, I think when the album was reissued, a mix done by Alan Moulder. And from the point of view of trying to hear what's going on guitar-wise, I actually think that mix is a little bit better, and you can hear some extra guitar stuff that I don't think was on the original mix. And then the other recording that I've been checking out is the great live recording that was made at the Hammersmith Odeon for the last appearance of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And the best thing about that is the solo at the end. Ronson's given the chance to have this amazing, crazy, extended solo, which is completely awesome. So because there's quite a lot of stuff to talk about, I'm going to split this over a couple of different videos. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the rhythm guitar, and then next week, if I can manage to get it together in time, I'm going to be talking about the guitar solo. Should we go acoustic to start with? So what I want to do is just take you through the basic chords first of all. You can of course play this song on an acoustic guitar, strum your way through the song, it will sound great. You don't have to do all of the lead guitar stuff if that's not your thing. If you are interested in the lead guitar stuff, then I suggest you learn these basic chords first of all as well, because a lot of Ronson's guitar stuff is based off of these chord shapes, so it's important you've got an understanding as to what's going on here. Now, we're in the key of B minor for this song. I assume the acoustic on this recording was played by Bowie himself on his 12 string. I think he's actually a great and quite underrated guitar player. We're in the key of B minor, and it's a typically interesting Bowie chord progression. It's mainly in the key of B minor. There's one or two chords that just step outside the key a little bit and a bit more surprising. And we kick off like this. We've got I'm an alligator, I'm a mama, papa coming for you. What I'm going to do is just take you through the chords, and then I'm going to come back to the strumming pattern that you can use for this song. Starting off with a couple of hits on this D major bar chord. The whole song uses a combination of open chords and bar chords. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with your basic bar chord shapes. If you're not, you might like to check out a couple of beginners bar chord videos that I've done. But we're starting with this. It's D major, it's a 5th string root bar chord. Then we're coming down to an F sharp chord at the 2nd fret. It's a 6th string root bar chord. Then we've got this. So a couple of beats on B minor. Then we have B minor with an A in the bass. So to get that, we're just going to move the first finger down so it's just covering the top string. Allow the open A string to ring, and you've got that nice B minor over A sound. A couple of beats on that. Then we've got a bar of E, and you've got a choice here. You can play an open E chord, or what it sounds like Bowie is doing, he's playing the E chord up a little bit higher. 5th string root bar chord at the 7th fret. Then we've got a bar of G, using an open G here, then a bar of D. You could play an open D there or a bar chord, up to you really. Then we've got F sharp bar chord again, and then we're back round with this B minor for 2 beats, B minor over A, E. That's the verse. On into the chorus, and that is just G, B minor, E. So it's 2 beats of G, 2 beats of B minor, 4 beats of E. Again, you've got some choices as to where you play those chords. Sounds to me on the chorus like Bowie is doing open G, bar chord B minor, and then an open E chord just for the chorus. So we repeat that little pattern I think 3 times. And then at the end of the chorus we've got freak out in a Moonage daydream. We're just doing 1 hit on the D bar chord and then moving that up 2 frets to E. So that's the basic verse and chorus of the song. Let's talk about the strumming pattern. Now it's a kind of slow to mid-tempo track, and the strumming pattern is really based on a 16th note kind of a feel. So you want to keep your strumming hand moving up and down in that 16th note kind of pattern like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... Most important thing is just to keep your strumming hand moving and to keep loose. Once you've got that going on, then some of those 16th notes you're going to want to accent, and Bowie seems to be accenting the first and the last 16th note of every beat. So we've got this kind of 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So those are the 16th notes that you're trying to accent and bring out, but it's okay to have some of those in between 16th notes in there as well. So the overall strum ends up sounding something like this. That's the basic strumming pattern for the verse and the chorus. So the other section of the song that we need to talk about is the solo section, and we've actually got a couple of solos in this song. There's the shorter initial solo, which is actually played on the rather unusual combination of baritone sax and penny whistle, and then there's the longer Ronson solo at the end. They're both played over the same chord progression, and that goes like this. And that then just repeats. It's all 6-string root bar chord shapes. We're starting up at the 7th fret B minor, going down to A, and then down to G, and then down to F sharp. The strum has changed slightly here. We're going 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. And on beat 2 and 4 you're just releasing pressure and maybe having some scratches coming through. And the same thing on A, G and F sharp. We're just strumming through on the F sharp there. So that's the acoustic part of the song. Put all of that together, you should be able to play a respectable strumming sing-along version of the song. But now let's get into the more detailed Ronson guitar part. Let's check out the Rono rhythm guitar part then. And as I said, most of this is very heavily based on those bar chord shapes that we saw in the acoustic part. And I think what's most remarkable about this rhythm guitar part is how restrained it is. I think Ronno obviously saves the theatrics and the crazy stuff for the end of the song, but all of the rhythm is pretty restrained, and he's often seems to be holding down these basic chord shapes, but then only playing single notes or double stops, and there's a lot of muted percussive stuff in there as well. So let me take you through it. I'm not going to do this absolutely note for note because that will be far too tedious, but I'm going to try and point out most of the interesting details. Now we're kicking off with power chord. It's a D power chord. Then we're coming down to an F sharp power chord. And maybe some little percussive things in the space there. And then if you remember, the chords now go B minor over A and to E. And what Ronson is doing, he's kind of holding down a B minor shape, but really just playing a couple of notes from that shape. So he might just be playing the root note and then maybe this D note at the 7th fret on the G string. So, and then lots of muted stuff going to E. And similar kind of thing, you're holding down this bar chord shape, but you're just bringing out some accents in there, and in between you've got some scratchy stuff. So it continues in that kind of vein, really. We've got G next, but rather than play the entire chord, we've got so some muted stuff on the low E, maybe playing the root note, and then picking out another couple of notes within that chord shape, moving to D. Similar kind of approach. Then we've got F sharp. So again, muted stuff, then the root note, maybe playing that 4th fret on the D string at the end. And second time we've got the B minor to B minor over A to E, he's just playing root notes. So we've got this B note to A, and then we've got open low E, and then we're playing the E note at the 7th fret on the A string. That leads us into the chorus, and the chords here, if you remember, are G, B minor and E. And once again, Ronson is being pretty minimal. He's playing just a G single note, and then a B, maybe picking out one or two other notes from that B minor. So in particular, I can hear that D note, I think. And then going to E, and it's that same low E and 7th fret on the A string. And then playing the top part of that E bar chord, mixing it in with some percussive stuff. That repeats. And then the freak out bit. So it's just power chords, D and an E power chord with lots of 16th note scratching in between. And that's the end of the first verse and the first chorus. All of that goes round again, and what I did at the start of this lesson is I just tried to throw in a few variations and some of the stuff that I was hearing on the live recording. So it starts in the same way. This is the second verse. We've got the power chords, and then maybe you've got some sliding, some pick scrapey stuff in there. Second time you're playing that F sharp up an octave rather than down here. Then I was playing this little arpeggiated part, which I really liked from the live recording, and it went something like this. We've got really thinking triads here. It's like a B minor triad, so 9th fret on the D, 7 on the G and the B, going to a D triad, that's 7th fret on the D, G and B, and then an E triad, which is the same thing, 2 frets higher. So you've got this kind of and I can just hear a little kind of hammer on and pull off there. 7th fret to the 8th fret on the B. I just did this little lead guitar line, which you can hear on the live recording. So it's 9 and 10 on the B, and then bending this A up to a B. And trying to give it some of that nice Ronson vibrato on that note as well. And then we're coming down to the 8th fret on the D string. Some more of this stuff. Into the chorus, I think I'm playing that the same as before. Then we have the rhythm guitar for the solo section, and that's really exactly the same as the acoustic part. It's just B minor, A, G, F sharp. So exactly the same as the acoustic part. I think Ronson possibly playing more power chords rather than the full major or minor bar chord shapes there. For extra fun, you could try playing the penny whistle baritone sax solo on the guitar. I don't think this is what's going on the original recording or the live version. I think there's a BBC session where I think there's guitar and possibly a synth or a keyboard playing this, and it goes something like this. We've got I'm playing this all on the D string. You could play it on the G string or a combination of the two, but it works quite nicely on the D string, I think, just starting at the 12th fret. And there's a great interview with Ronson you might have seen. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's on YouTube, where he's sitting in the Hammersmith Odeon, sort of demoing some of the most famous Bowie songs. He plays a bit of Moonage, Daydream, and he plays this bit with octaves, something like this. So. Something like that. Let's talk about gear, baby. And obviously I'm using the Les Paul for this video, and as usual I've just tried to get reasonably close to the Ronson sound using the gear that I've got to hand. And I think the number one tip for getting that Ronson sound is to use a wah-wah pedal, and he was famously someone who used the old cocked wah-wah trick. So you get a wah-wah pedal, and rather than using it to go wah-wah-wah with, you're just parking it in one place and using it as kind of a tone control or filter. So you just have to play around with the position of the pedal until you get the tone that you like. So that's the first pedal that I'm going into, Crybaby wah-wah pedal. Amp I'm using is a Vox AC30, which is a 90s reissue, and that amp is running completely clean. I'm just going into the normal channel. It's fairly low volume, completely clean. And for distortion, I'm using my Proco Rat distortion pedal. So that's the end of the first instalment. I hope you enjoy getting the song together. I think it's very hard to play this exactly like Ronson plays it, so the best policy is probably just to check out what he's doing, try and understand the kind of techniques and ideas that are in there, and then do it your own way in keeping with the spirit of the original. There's going to be a backing track up on my Patreon page, and next week it's solo time. I'll see you then. Bye.